but they remembered you because you were the good thing. You know, it's like you and Dennis were the ones that were like, oh, they were the good, you know, nobody could ever, no matter what, it was like flawless. Like, you know, you guys were always, you know, it was just obvious that you were like, you know, the people that were, you know, right. So, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for that. Yeah, so I guess, okay, so my CEDU story, how did I wind up going there? I moved out to Southern California back in 1990. And it was sort of like I got a job with the Riverside County Office of Education as a school psychologist. And I wound up getting in my car and driving from here to here to here to here all over the place in Riverside County, working with these special education students in special classrooms scattered around on different campuses. So I spent all my time on the road driving. I didn't belong anywhere. I wasn't like part of a school staff. And it was just, I really disliked it.
Right.
And it was like a luncheon that for the school psychologists in the area would periodically get together for lunch and have like a guest speaker. And so I went to this one luncheon, and the guest speaker was the director of admissions for CEDU. His name was Saul. I can't remember his last name. And he was talking about the program. And what I heard most when he was talking was, you know, the wilderness trips, the ropes courses, things like that stuff. That I was like, oh, that would be so cool to be able to work in that kind of environment. You know, working with kids who need help, doing cool outdoor stuff. It was like, sign me up. So I talked after the lunch. I talked to Saul, and he arranged for me to get an interview up at CEDU, and they hired me. Obviously, Bill Valentine, I think, was the person who interviewed me and hired me. And that was the big thing I really loved about CEDU was, yeah, that we were up in the mountains, first of all, and I love being in the mountains. And you know, we did, you know, the wilderness challenge trips and the quest trips and just, you know, these different, you know, went to ropes courses and that was stuff I just thought was to get paid while doing that kind of fun stuff that was great. What I was less keen on was the whole emotional growth stuff that it wasn't comfortable for me, but I figured that was just my inexperience and I just had to keep with it and stick with it and kind of be like the other counselors, you know, because they seem to get it. They know what's going on. So like Martin Weens, Bill Valentine, you know, there's some of the people like that. I was like, oh, okay, they're clearly into it. I have to do what they do. And you know, so I went through all the profits, you know, did the raps and all that kind of stuff. And it didn't I felt like I was kind of wearing a mask. Like I wasn't really who I was. I was just trying to do something because that's what other people were doing.
I saw it too. There was one, I don't mean to interrupt you, but there was one rap where you were doing work and I knew you were faking it. Like I'm like, he's fucking faking it. I'm like, this guy is fucking faking it. Does anyone not know he's faking it? And I was like, that's awesome. But I was like, I knew, do you know what I mean? I knew it was like you were trying on an outfit and it didn't fit. Yeah. Like you were yelling at the floor and you're like, I don't like the way this fits, but I think this is my job and I got to do this. And I was like, oh, and it made me love you so much. So I was like, because you knew, you know, because I knew I could tell it didn't feel right to you and you were fighting it. And that's why I was so excited to talk to you. It was just this one rap that I saw you in and I was like, I knew you weren't into it. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I struggled with that for a while, trying to, if I just keep working at it, maybe it'll start feeling more genuine and it didn't. And it's not that I was necessarily condemning the program or that it was a bunch of bullshit. Although I had a hunch maybe that was kind of like, maybe it was bullshit, but it seemed to really help people. Like some people really seemed to respond to it. And I just started focusing more on like the regular teaching kind of things and just sort of having good relationships kind of thing instead of, you know, running profits and, some of the people there some of the staff would ask me, when are you going to start running profits?
How did you get away with not doing that too? That's what one of the things I was wondering. How did you get away with not doing that?
Well, I think that they saw I wasn't embracing it with a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And
but
so that was
needed, and that people liked you for the teaching.
Maybe it was, exactly.
Yeah.
So, because there were teaching staff and there were emotional growth staff. I mean, there was almost like two different groups of people there, and I gravitated into the yes.
Yeah, like he was. I don't even. I can't believe I forgot him for a long time. But like I remember he was like a good teacher and he loved teaching. But yeah, like I don't even. I haven't even thought about him. But yeah, like I remember he like wanted to be a teacher and they were trying to make him be a counselor. Yeah.
Jean Bonanno would be another classic example of that. She was a teacher.
Yeah.
She did the emotional growth stuff. She left that for others. Other people did just emotional growth stuff. They didn't really do any teaching. And I went with the teaching side of things. And made some great friends. Because a lot of times as an adult, as I'm sure you probably learned this already, Carrie, once you get out of like school, like high school or college, it's hard to make really good friends. You have your colleagues, right? You have people you work with, maybe next door neighbors or something. But to really have good friendships where you talk about all kinds of things that are important, it's hard to find those friends once you're done with school. And I really appreciate that being a CEDU, you can make some good friends, among staff.
So you guys are all still really close, I bet, huh? Then, right?
Well, no, that's the sad thing is during my time at CEDU, we were very close. Like Kendall Porterfield, Laura Deichel.
Oh my God, right.
Some of those are people I got really close to. It was really nice having big, solid friendships. But then when we all left CEDU, we all scattered all different, parts of the globe. And those friendships did not survive, at least with me. I'm not sure about them with others.
Right.
But after a while, I had gone through the summit, did everything, and still, the fact that it was a residential program where you staff had to work weekends, you had to work on Christmas, you had to work at night, because kids are there all the time, right? So staff had to be there all the time as well. And as my wife and I were wanting to start a family, I was like, this is not a good job for the father of young children, right?
Right.
And the pay was terrible. I mean, I took
oh, was it really?
My pay was like cut in half when I left the county office of education to go work at CEDU. I think I had to take like a 40% pay cut, something like that.
Wow.
Which is a little surprising because CEDU, is a for-profit company, and they charged you for everything, right? And it was an expensive place to go if you were a student, but not a whole lot of money went into staff salaries. So
that's insane.
So it got to the point where I wanted to quit because I wanted to get a job that, first of all, paid a lot better. Second of all, it didn't have me working weekends and nights and holidays and things like that because I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to have a family. And that was not the kind of place. To be a single man, that would have been a fine place to work, in terms of, but when, married guy, ready to start a family, was like, no, okay, I gotta move on. So that's why I ultimately left. It was just the push to get ready to have kids and, shift to another phase of my life.
Yeah.
I lived up in Running Springs for many years after I left CEDU. I still lived up there.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
And then would you hear would you hear anything about it or see anybody from it during that time?
Occasionally, I'd run into the Bonanos that lived up, pretty much in my neighborhood. You'd see each other, you'd say hi kind of thing, but it wasn't, I think a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people. By the time I decided to leave and went through job interviews and things like that, and I got hired in Moreno Valley, as a school psychologist in the Moreno Valley district, I only was able to give 10 days notice or 8 days notice, something like that, before my new job started, which wasn't very professional of me. And some people, they got pissed at me. First of all, I think that I was leaving it all and then second that didn't give 2 weeks or more notice, kind of thing. So I was kind of non grata for a while.
Yeah.
Some staff that I'd run into that would, we'd talk about, like the movie Apollo 13 was just coming out. And so there was one of the other teachers there we were talking about, oh yeah, it's going to be a great movie. And she, told me a little bit about how people didn't speak highly of me, because I had left, But anyway, so ever since then, I left in 1995 and went right into the Moreno Valley School District. I've been working there ever since.
Did you leave in the middle of my, so that means that you left in the middle of me being there.
Could be. I left in like August of 1995.
Yeah, because I was there from 94 to 96.
There you go. Yeah.
So wow, I don't remember you leaving. So I feel like that would have been like so sad that you left. I feel like it's like one of those things where they're like, oh, they hide the dead pet kind of a thing. Like, oh, let's not talk about the John L.V.'s leaving. Maybe that's why I don't remember. So I don't remember you leaving. That's funny. Wow. That's really weird. Yeah. What
else
sorry?
What else could I?
Yeah, like afterwards, what do you think about, do you know about what Paris Hilton's doing, and do you know about any of that stuff, or
some of the abuse that has occurred in schools like CEDU.
Yeah, it wasn't CEDU. I mean, it was mostly like she got messed up at Provo pretty bad. I mean, what you probably would think. It's just, it's more like a hospital setting with, when I came back and visited with, I don't remember Jackie Mendel, who was in my peer group. We visited as alumni, and Dennis picked us up, and he was like, oh, there's this girl, Paris, who's here. And she's refusing to do anything, but all the staff says, oh, she looks just like you. And, you remember how you refused to do anything when you got here. So I was her big sister for like a week when I visited. And I, the entire time I was like, it's not, like it's going to make your whole life better. And I'm telling her all these good things about it. And then I find out, in this documentary she made, that she was in a whole bunch of other worse ones. And, but yeah, she's like trying to do a lot to like regulate, to make them regulated, so that like, because there should be, it's not like there's not a need for places like it. You know what I mean? Like there's obviously, like there are troubled teens, like, it's not like I didn't need to go someplace like that, or that there isn't a need for it. It's just a regulation for it, or, and like you were probably the most like the person that had been to the most schooling beforehand to, because I didn't even know that you had any sort of degrees like that.
Yeah.
None, zero. I would have never even guessed, because you were never involved in the profits and the workshops and stuff like that. So the fact that you were actually you'd gone to school for that and weren't even using it is very,
the school for was not what CEDU does.
Yeah,
CEDU,
right.
I mean, there are two very different things. And I think that's one of the reasons that it was challenging for me to kind of let go of my formal education and embrace this other less formal but very powerful approach that CEDU used.
Yeah.
Caused me to have to bend disbelief, kind of thing.
I didn't realize that you had been through the profits. So the first person that I interviewed was Jamie Donahoe.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, like, he got there like when I did as staff, so like he was like in my peer group, you know what I mean, like, and like he went through all the profits and stuff with my peer group, of course I love him to death, and like, and I didn't realize he actually was a team head for like I think 2 years afterwards, and and I was like, what was the thing that maybe you thought, could have been, we would have thought would be troublesome? It was, that I want to live with the having that the hands on our back and the trying to push up. But like, it was it was easy for him to pretty much say, I could definitely understand that if, I chose to be in that situation as a staff member, like I was getting paid to, and like I, as an adult was choosing to put myself in the situation. But if you were a child and, you're being forced to feel these things that could be scary or traumatic, do you know what I mean? And so that was,
Sure.
even just that, even to have him kind of, yeah, like kind of think about that was like pretty, interesting, but like, it's my dad teaches people not to be afraid of flying. He is the first person to copyright a therapeutic process. He is a genius of his field in therapy. And my whole, it took me a couple years to be like, okay, staying up all night, the no sleeping, and the no, like these are all kind of like brainwashing techniques for you to get, and like it's just, it's like breaking you down. And it's not like, I'm not saying that CEDU was a flat out cult, but like they definitely use, like cult like practices to get us to feel certain things so that we would, so they would get certain reactions out of us. And it took a long time for me to, come to terms that, like it wasn't the best place, but like there's a lot of people that were there that have never come to that point. That because they might have been sent there for reasons like that were basically nothing, they were treated differently and were given so much love that they never will receive again, that those people will constantly say that it was the best place in the world, the best and the only place they felt love, and that if anyone talks bad about it, you're just crazy. So those people make it so that anyone telling their abuse that they suffered or trauma they have sounds nuts and sounds like they don't, oh, those are just the messed up kids, right? Those were just the crazy kids. But the good kids that like maybe just kind of got sent there by an educational consultant, like those ones are making it so that when we try to tell our stories, we sound nuts. And it's even harder because I don't want to say like a generation, but like our era of CEDU, like there was so much happiness. Like there was like just as much as, to the degree you feel your sorrow, the same degree you feel your joy. Like I feel like they put a lot of emphasis on a lot of fun and a lot of good times. So like it gets very confusing to say like, because then my friendships, Jackson is still a huge part of my life. I talk to him weekly. He will always be a part of my life. Like, I don't even need to say the last name. You know what I'm talking about. So
Yeah,
like,
tell him hi.
yeah, yeah, like him and do you know how wildly successful Adam Egan is? He just helped Joe Rogan open a new comedy venue in Texas.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah.
He like, I mean, yeah, so I mean, and they still talk all the time. I mean, like the friendships that we've had, like me and Leanne hated me our entire time at CEDU, and afterwards we're best friends. We talk all the time. She's like, I was such a bitch there, and I hated it so much. But but she's like, but like now she's one of my closest friends. So it's like, we can never be like, oh, and I think that's part of the thing too, is like people get really mad because of the friendships, and they're like, oh, well, like if, I wouldn't have had these friendships if I never went there. But like, it's just, like I just got asked to do this one podcast and I ended up talking about it for 3 hours. And then, a couple other people come out. Like, do you remember Mike Balaban?
Doesn't ring a bell offhand.
Yes, there was a good year where he was just digging a stump for about a year and got sent to Ascent, and his peer group went through the brothers while he was at Ascent, and then he came back. He had to come back, and he just had it really bad. But like he did a couple of podcasts, and I tried to get some people to go on this other guy's podcast, and they just didn't feel comfortable. But I just think that our experiences was different because we had so much pleasurable stuff about it. But the other places that have happened from Synanon, are just abuse, like just horrible. But because, people say, we might have been the first, or we were like one of the first, and there are people that have good experiences, it makes it harder for the other ones to come out and say what happened, because it just sounds more unbelievable. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the reason why I really wanted to do this documentary too is to get all the good and the bad, the people that thought it was really great and the people that thought it was really bad, to have both of those opinions so you can see why they had those opinions and what their experiences were. You know what I mean? But yeah. Are there songs you can no longer listen to?
No, in terms of like a unpleasant association, so I just avoid it. No, it's the opposite. There's songs that I hear that bring me back. It's like, oh yeah, that was good. I like that.
Really? What about
Yeah.
Imagine? Can you listen to Imagine?
Well, sure.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
I can't. Nobody can. That's like the one thing. Nobody can listen to Imagine ever again.
Whatever. I escaped that fate. I still like him. Yeah. So there's basically the songs that definitely bring me back to CEDU, and generally they're positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you Jamie talked about like he really felt like he was able to bring a lot of the good lessons to his students later. Like he felt like I think he did like it's some version of like the I Want to Live, or maybe it was the I Am Me, or something like some little mini prophet with like one of his students. And he felt like he got a really positive outcome, but it was it was like small, and it was more like a mental kind of an exercise kind of a thing. But he's been able to use some of the teachings for good, I think, later on. So that's kind of been interesting. Um, who else have you kept in touch with?
Really, nobody. I
Oh,
mean,
really?
I'll go on Facebook and I'll see, some of the things going on, some of the CEDU Facebook entries. And I'll just look and see, oh yeah, I remember that person. Oh, I never heard of these people. But I sort of just lurking in the background, because as a staff member, I never really felt like the Facebook kind of existence of CEDU. I thought more for students.
Right,
And
right.
then I were to sort of insert myself, like, started sharing things as like, who the hell is this guy? Get out of here. This is, you guys are part of the problem.
Yeah, no, and that's
So
yeah. So I definitely didn't want you to ever think that. And so that's when people, I didn't want to like say your name on my Facebook or anything, because it's like you were definitely not. Yeah, like you and like Elizabeth and like Joel and like Dennis, obviously, and like Nancy and like I don't think that you ever had any whatsoever negative or mean bone in your body whatsoever. Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily talking about me at that point. It was more just staff in general. That's not where we belong. We don't belong
Yeah.
on the. If there was a Facebook page, that would have been. I never know if there is one. I've never seen one. For staff to get together and share what it was like to be the staff member instead of the student, that would be an interesting group to be part of.
And that's what
But
yeah, and that's yeah.
group, the student groups, I felt I would have been intruding. So
Yeah.
I didn't really maintain contact with people, either staff or students. I sort of just moved on.
Yeah, yeah. Was it traumatic for you? Like, did you have any nightmares about it, or like do you remember seeing something that really stuck with you? Like that was,
Well, I think the prophets. I like the prophets. I thought they were good for me. I think I had did some face some issues that I never faced before about childhood things, and so I didn't feel like they were abusive. I didn't feel like I was injured at all. I mean, I felt I came out of them a better man than I was going in.
Yeah.
Uh, so, sorry, what did you ask me? Did I feel like I
Is
had
there
one?
something that like you remember that was like, I don't know, that like where you kind of, I don't know, where you felt not like you were seeing like abuse, but I don't know, like something that like really stuck out as like, that you can't forget, that, was like, that was just, like bad, or, yeah, like for Jamie, it was the I Want to Live with the hands on the back and the trying to push up thing. Like,
No,
if
there
you
was like that
remember.
that I that came and stuck me like as, ooh, that was bad. You know, there's
No, not yeah, no.
anything. I mean, obviously it's been a little while now.
Yeah.
My memory is not as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
But nothing comes to mind that is sort of like I cringe at the thought of, you know, what you know, we shouldn't be doing this.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, 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 I don't mean to be like, oh, no. But it's also like it was, like it took Jackson a good 10 years longer for him to like to be like, oh, this wasn't right. You know what I mean? And because I just think that, everyone's experience was so different. Like they treated a lot of people very differently, and which I just feel like everyone really had like totally different experiences based on a lot of different things.
And some of the stuff I've learned since I left CEDU, like from Facebook pages and such, were things that I had no idea were going on. Like some of the
Oh.
inappropriate staff student stuff, you know, in terms of, um, you know,
Yeah, and I had no experience with that. And I mean, I don't.
things
Yeah.
like certain relationships that occurred or certain mistreatment of students by certain staff. I was like, whoa, I was right there and I wasn't aware of it. In hindsight, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's not good. That's not right.
Yeah. Yeah, I know nothing. I know of nothing like actually specific, but I've like heard, like rumors or whatever. And I mean, it like, it makes sense that could have easily happened. But yeah, like yeah, I don't know of anything specific. Yeah. Um, but
Like some of this, like you know, in the prophets where you do like that, I can't remember what it's called, where you go around and confess your sins. You know, you talk about
disclosure circles.
this. Some of the things that staff members disclosed, inappropriate, considering that you are the, you know, they are the staff, they're not the kids. You know, should be a boundary there, a pretty firm boundary. And it's like you can disclose those things maybe to other adults, but you don't disclose those to a kid and then expect that kid to be able to have a normal relationship with you.
Right. Yeah, that was something that Jamie brought up. Yeah. That was definitely something that Jamie brought up. Yeah. Because I think that he said a disclosure, and then a staff member was like, okay, let's leave that one out next time.
Yeah.
Like, all right, that last one, that's just you didn't do that one. Let's just don't kids don't even know about that one, or like that would happen, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah, we were not. I mean, I certainly, as a staff member, wasn't told in advance. Like, okay, you have some limits in what you say.
Right.
The kids to have no limits, but you, not a kid, you should have some limits. You know, certain things you don't want to talk about in terms of you breaking the law or whatever.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So do you think back of it fondly? Do you think about, or like, do you think like?
My experience at CEDU ultimately, I think I remember it fondly because there was a lot of good people, like staff and students, good relationship with. We had good adventures together. We had some fun together.
How many wilderness trips did you go on? I think that you went. Did you go on my wilderness challenge or my wilderness quest, I think, or something? I think you might have.
Gary, my memory is so bad.
Sorry, if I can't remember, I don't know how you.
But I did a wilderness challenge up in the Sierras. I did a wilderness challenge in Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
A quest in Joshua Tree and a quest on, I thought it was Mount San Gorgonio, but maybe that was what was the first wilderness thing called? Wilderness
Discovery.
Discovery. I think we did Discovery on Mount San Gorgonio down here.
Yeah. That's cool.
So, yeah, so I did. I mean, I wasn't like Donna, going on every one or, that kind of thing.
She was amazing. I wonder what happened to her. She was just an amazing person. Yeah. But yeah, there were those people that it's like flawless humans, like heroic human, you human people like Donna, and it's like, it's just it's people like that. It's like, well, there are people that work there like that. So how could there be anything? You know what I mean? Like she was so wonderful, So it's like when you have people like that, you know what I mean? It's so hard to see that anything could be wrong when there's people that are working there that are that wonderful, like her, like So
I'm
yeah.
sort of Donna indirectly. There's a good friend of mine who's also a friend of hers, and she's into cycling. My friend is into cycling, and Donna's into cycling, and so I've seen like pictures of her from these events that my friend attends. So I know she's still around.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah.
She's doing well.
Yeah. Yeah, like so yeah, you left, so you actually left for like money. Yeah. Then so you were there for how, like 4 years? 5 years?
3.5.
Oh, 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember like there was just this one rap where like you kind of, you started to do work and it was like you were doing it, you know what I mean? But I was like, I don't think I just kind of felt like I don't think he really likes doing this and I don't think he's into it. But it was like, it was like expected of you to do. And I just always thought that was really fascinating that it was like, because I had to do that too. Because I remember like, I never would wanted to do work. I just didn't get the screaming at the floor thing. And then I was on a table and I was like, okay, that was like the whole thing. It's like once you're on a table, I knew that was what they wanted me to do. And I was like, okay, I know once I just do work, I'll be able to get off the table. You know what I mean? And you finally do it. But it was like, you would see some people do it like I don't remember like Tabia Enriquez. She was that girl that would play piano all the time, like, and she would do work and like have broken blood vessels all over her face, and she'd do it like every week and like got a lot out of it. But like then you wonder, it's like, well, what do they do afterwards? Like, you know what I mean? Like when they get home, it's like I don't think that's really a thing you can do all the time, like. And I remember Jackson was wondering that, and he asked Rudy, and Rudy Ben said I just play tennis. He's like, oh. like you just play tennis and you just scream when you like play tennis, but yeah, it's hard because my father looked into the school before he sent me, and he actually he did a lot of est before CEDU. And so like when we would have the workshops and stuff, like that the parents were supposed to come to seminars so that they could see what their kids are doing, he was like, well, I've already done est. I don't need to do this. I know what you're doing. I don't need to know anything about it. And so like I would always be the only one that didn't have a parent come. So I'd go with Jackie Mendel and her parents on the, like when those little things where, for the weekend and your parents would come. But so like, yeah, like still to this day we fight about it. And like we try not to bring, and so there's been like decades of us just trying to be like agree to disagree, agree to disagree, and it's just like about like he just doesn't think that anything could have happened to me, like that, like it's just fucked up kids talking stuff now about if they said that anything bad could have happened. And so it's just he doesn't believe that like anything could have bad could have happened, because I don't know if it's like the guilt or the professional thing of like that's where you send people, like this is what you do when this happens. So yeah, so part of this documentary is kind of like a letter of trying to explain like it's not your fault. And I'm not trying to get, blame you, you know what I mean? It's just, but trying to way of explaining it, or I don't know, trying to raise awareness that it's still happening. But I do feel like the time that we spent there together was different than a lot of other schools, because we cared genuinely for each other, and it wasn't an institution, and there was no locks on the doors, and I genuinely felt cared for by a great many amount of people, and like, I don't, and so that makes it so complicated, and so like I talked to John Black for the first time the other day, just on the phone for under 10 minutes. He blew my mind just in some of the stuff he was saying. He just explained my life of the last 10 years in just a small conversation. And I'm like, he's hanging up the phone. So I'm like, because we weren't Skyping, and I'm like, this is too good. We have to get this recorded. We have to do this another time. And I wanted to say, I love you before I hung up the phone with him, because I did, you know what I mean? But it's like, I can't say that to do you know how good looking man he turned into be? It's like, I can't just say like, I love you, John. You know what I mean? It's like, but I'm like, I still, you know what I mean? It's just like like, and I didn't even know him that well because he was like he was like in Hilltop and he like joined my peer group later. So like, and he didn't graduate with so it's like, we were in the same peer group, but only for a short amount of time, but like, I still love him. And it's like, but I love him more than like most people I've known my whole life since then, because the love that we felt was greater than it was just a greater amount than normal amount. You know what I mean? So yeah, people do have those close relationships they had in high school and college, but ours kill those other ones because of just the situation it was. So yeah, it's I actually saw Michelle Furlet on TV on a cake baking show. I saw the back of her running to her station for this cake competition baking show on the Food Network. I recognized the back of her I recognized the way she ran. She was running to her station. So we'd do all that running. I was like, that's Michelle Furlet. I know that was her, and it was her. Same thing happened to me. Joe Banta. I don't know if you remember him. He might have left before you got there, if that's when you left, but he saw me in the Philadelphia train station from across the station because I was running to the board to see if I'd missed my train. He came up to me, he's like, Kari Bunn, I recognize you from across the station just by the way you ran. Because of all the running that we had to do all the time. So, and that's happened to other people, like, because we knew each other's body language at a point where, we just know each other so well. Like, when each other were lying, you know what I mean? Like, you just know each other, like, automatically. So yeah, like, there's a lot of things that I totally would not trade, for the time that I had there. Like, my relationship with Jackson, like, do you know what it's like to have your first boyfriend's father be Graham Nash? Do you know the stories? Like, I saw Star Wars with Francis Ford Coppola and David Crosby. Like, there's just crazy story. I danced backstage with Bonnie Raitt while Graham Nash and Jackson Browne sang Running on Empty. And Jackson found me, pointed at him, and says, no, Bun. And like, it made me go away. Like, I have crazy stories from growing up because of, or like, I can say that my first drummer's father wrote Hotel California because of Cody Felder. You know what I mean? Like, or, like, there's just, we had like, crazy things that we did when we were young. Like, I mean, like, yeah, like, that little, like, there's just, we got to have crazy, great experiences and feel amazing things. Or like, when I got to leave, the way that I could talk around adults was like, you could just like break people down in like insane ways. Like, and that was the thing that John Black said to me, was that we were rewarded for freaking out about things, and we were rewarded for being mean and really really critical about certain things. And I am so mean. If I feel like I'm being hurt, or if I feel like I need to defend myself, I will kill you. Like, I will hurt you. I'll go for blood. Like, you know what I mean? And I think, and I know that's where it comes from, because, like, because that's what, because, like, that was what we were rewarded for. Like, if you could think of the meanest thing, the most hurtful thing, it was like, that's what you were supposed to say sometimes. And and it's, I definitely kept that in a very bad way that I think I have to work on now that I figured it out. But the friendships are like, yeah, they're
And to get to know people at the level that you know, emotionally so open and raw and deep, it doesn't happen in.
No, yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it's, yeah, and like like, I'll talk, like, I saw, when I started talking to Jamie, it was like immediately when I saw him, I just started laughing hysterically, just looking at his face, because like, he used to pick me up and throw me in the snow all the time, and just like, when we first got to CEDU, like, it was just, like, there was so much joy and like love, and then it's just like, but then yeah, it was such a confusing time. But yeah, like, yeah, I'm actually going to this thing called the Survivors Prom next month. And it's it's in LA, and it's like it's an event for, people that throughout the years have gone through all the different troubled teen industries schools all over I don't know if the world, but a lot of them. Like there's a list of like 75 schools or something. There's like 300. I think I'm one of the only CEDU people. So that's like, cause it's like, I think that one of the things that they kind of told us were like, oh, we were the first school and we're like, we were the best school and all the other schools came from us kind of a thing. Or like, there might be other schools like us, but we were the hardest. Yeah, there was like, I'm finding out that like a lot of the schools, like the kid that, he's not a kid, he's like 10 years younger than me. But the guy that did the podcast that I started, his name is Jordan. He went to, oh God, I can't even remember. But like we started talking about his program, and then we get to like he had to be Ricky Martin and sing Livin' La Vida Loca for his stretch. Do you know what I mean? And you already know that means it's the same thing. Because, like mine, I had to be Dorothy and sing The Wizard of Oz, or sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So once he said that like when I said, oh, for my stretch, I had to be Dorothy and sing that, and he was like, oh my God, in my workshop for that thing, like I had to be Ricky Martin and sing Live in La Vida Loca, and I was like, are you kidding? That's the same formula, you know what I mean? And then like I really like, okay, there's definitely a connection in the programs, and like his program was really only closed very recently. So like these are all programs that came out of the Synanon and Est books. But it's like we kind of all thought that like like CEDU was like the one, the best one, and the original, and it really wasn't. But it might have had the best intentions. And it might have did do some good work, but that makes it dangerous because it kind of makes it dangerous for the other ones that had nothing like that. You know what I mean? So it's, yeah. But so yeah, I'm sure that you like have to go. I know it's like you've already talked for like almost an hour, but like yeah, I just as soon as you were like, I was like, would you tell your story of like what you're doing, and you were like, I was like, okay, all right, now I have to make a documentary because like, yeah, like, I mean, it was so unique. Our time there was so unique, and it was like, I don't even like I try to tell people like, do you remember when Jerry Garcia died? Were you there for that? So when Jerry Garcia died, two kids were in the kitchen and the cooks were listening to the radio and they heard it and were hysterical because they were like the two of the biggest hippies in the school. You know what I mean? And I think so. I think one of the staff figured out like what, like, okay, they had heard in the news on the way into work, and now the two biggest hippies in Discovery are crying hysterically. Something they figured it out. And so all around the house in the evening, I don't even remember who it was. I think it might have been, Bill Valentine, who was like, the biggest hippie in the world died. Whatever you're thinking in your mind, that's who it is. We don't need to discuss it anymore. Like he's like, I think he might have said like deadhead, and then that was it. But it was like they had to like just like kind of like, all right, like you see these people crying, like whoever their hero is in your head, that's the guy who died. Doesn't really need to be discussed any longer. Like, or things like that would happen, or like, yeah, it was interesting, like, to come home and find out that like my favorite band had broken up and I didn't even know, or but like the living in a bubble thing was but it made our relationship so close, and it made us very, very close to each other. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be talking so much. I'm like, I want to be hearing what you have to say. But yeah, I just wanted you to know that, like, I'm not doing this to be hurtful in any way to anybody that I talk to whatsoever. Like, I want to interview Randolph and I want to interview other people. And I really want to get as many conflicting views of the school as possible, and listen with, as understanding as I can. And I have. And yeah, I just, yeah, like, everyone I talk to that, like, and I mentioned John Elvey, and they're like, oh, John Elvey, he was the best one. Like every single person, just like, oh my God, John Elvey was the best. He taught me physics. Like everyone remembers you. Like every single person was like, oh, or like even somebody's like, oh my God, I remember the physics teacher. What is his name? What is his name? Like, because you loved it so much. And
Yeah.
it was like the one thing, it was like, oh, I'm gonna go learn physics. What the hell am I? Did I just hear myself talk? But it's like, no, because you just loved it so much, and yeah, we did. There was a lot of visual aids, or like, it's like I should still remember, that like white is the absence, or yeah, white is the absence of no, black is the absence of light, or like, or not. I can't even remember it, but I do remember like you had those light things, and but yeah, like when I was the first time I fixed a guitar, I'd set up a guitar, it just made sense because if with guitar setup, just the smallest amount of a change changes everything on it. And so like it's all cause and effects, like so much. And yeah, it's but yeah, I feel like I got it because of you. I just always feel like I've understood stuff like that because you explained it in a way that I understood. I don't understand anything like that. So yeah, like it's greatly affected my life, that your love of physics, like, because guitar, like, music is a hard business to be in, but for a girl that understands guitar repair, do you know how valuable that is? So it's been fun. I've had a fun life because of it.
My wife and children teased me because a common thing that I will say, oh, it's physics. That's physics. Or physics is everything. They're like, yes, Dad. Yeah.
It is. It is everything. Yeah, but it's it's the understanding of like when you do one thing, equal and opposite reaction. It's all that, and that's everything with guitar. It's seriously, it's everything. Everything is held together by the weight of the string, of the pressure, and then everything is compensating for everything. And if one thing is off, it doesn't work anymore. So yeah. Finely tuned instrument is a word, it's a phrase for a reason. So, yeah, I'm like, oh God, I can't even think of the questions I had anymore. I didn't even realize that you went through all the profits. I thought that you like, that like you kind of like somehow were able to like not do that.
I was happy to do it. I didn't feel forced to do it.
Yeah.
I was glad to do it. And like I said, I think I grew from that experience.
Yeah, I mean, because of there were good parts of it. Like, I mean, like even in the Imagine, besides having to listen to John Lennon, but like I remember, like, when they showed that picture of your little kid, of you or your little kid, and you're like, oh, you know what I mean? Like when just the things that would make sense, you know what I mean? It's like, like you could live your whole life and not understand those things, like, or, those are the things that you understand once you've gone through some crazy, horrible things, so it's like they, tried to, sometimes I feel like, they tried to save us from having to go through horrible things to understand those life lessons. Or maybe that's what they had tried to do. So, but
it's unintentional on my part, but I tend to remember things that are nice and pleasant, and I forget things that aren't.
yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of things that were like, oh God, and I just don't remember.
Yeah.
Like my kids, like some, my wife says, don't you remember when Jason did this and that? And it's like, no, I forgot. But I remember when he was all cute and adorable,
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Where do you live now?
I live in Riverside,
In
east of
California?
about an hour east of Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna go out there. I'm like, I don't even know anybody out there anymore. Because Jack, I would just go stay with Jackson. He lives in a compound that he made in Kauai. The last time I talked to his dad was making fun of what a hippie lifestyle he lives. Because like he lives off the land, and like I visited him for his wedding, and he killed a boar and put it in the ground to be cooked, and I was horrified. But like he's like he lives off the land. He's got 3 gorgeous children, and but like he's completely distanced himself from pretty much like like real society, so he can but like his children are gonna be wonderful humans. Um, but yeah, like I haven't talked to that many people. I don't know if you remember, Andre was in my peer group, and he's a DJ in New York City, and Tamika lives in Seattle. Um, Yeah, I should talk to more people. It's hard though, but there's also like people go into phases of whether or not they want to talk about it or not, whether or not they're, ready to deal with it. But it's just always been something I can never really not, think about, like, and it's just, whenever it like comes up, it's just a thing that just envelops my mind for like weeks at a time. And then, I'll forget about it, and then it'll come, and then something will come out, or, like, and, and then I'll remember it again. So, but,
Yeah,
um,
or I'm sure that the experience of living in CEDU as a student was very different than being there as a staff member.
yeah,
You
yeah,
go through the profits and everything, but to go home at the end of the day, to your own home, to your own bed and all that, it was just very different. So I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
to imagine what it was like to be a student there.
Yeah. No, and I felt that from you. Like you, there's a couple of you that are like you and Dennis, obviously, like there was like a couple that was just like we felt that from you. And so like I like no matter like what happens, like like any when like just know that like we all everyone nobody has ever said anything negative about John Lv ever because you were just like you were just so nice to us, and just you taught me physics, like, and yeah, I fixed guitars because of that. It's yeah, I was working at Guitar Center, and a guitar technician that fixes all the guitars for the these areas guitar centers, and he's, oh, this is really hard, and showing me this thing. I was like, oh, that's it. And I do it like faster than he would, and it's like, that's it. And it's like I just understood. It was like, yeah. So it's just it's just great. Um, but yeah, everyone loved you. Everyone loved you. What did you teach afterwards, or were you or were
No, I didn't teach. I went back to work as a school psychologist.
so
To
then
teach.
where did the physics come from? Was that like a different degree that you just had, or?
I, I just like, I don't know if you remember, I got into astronomy up there. We had an astronomy club.
Oh, I do remember that. I think I was in that.
And that, and that was just a push that, there was a push to make CEDU more academic, more like a high school instead of a clinic. And so we were all encouraged to like think of what can you teach.
Right.
And I just as a kid, but certainly going through high school and such, I just loved science and I loved physics in particular. So they're like, okay, teach physics.
Are you kidding me?
And then, the physics we had, it's known as conceptual physics, right?
Right.
So it didn't have all the mathematical formulas in it. It was more just the ideas, the concepts.
And that's why I understood it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I taught physics at CEDU because they needed a physics teacher, and I liked physics.
Oh
So,
my God.
and then and then the same thing. They were looking for, we need more clubs at CEDU, things for kids to do on the weekends or at night. So, and so it was like, well, we're up here in the nice dark mountains. How about we do astronomy? So they gave me some money to go buy a telescope, and again, I didn't know a lot about astronomy. I just liked it. So we had weekly meetings of the astronomy club. So I would spend the week getting ready to like be one step ahead of all the kids in terms of like what constellations are up in the sky right now that we'll talk about, or um,
But
so
how did you
so
find this information with like the internet? Like were there like how would you find this out?
there wasn't the internet
I
back
know.
in.
Like, so how did you find
They
it
were called books.
out? Sorry. But like they would be updated like I mean, yeah, of course there would they're like almanacs, I'm assuming, right? Or something, or
Yeah, there's lots of good
there
books
was
out there.
there was ways before the internet. Sorry.
So yeah, so when I left CEDU, I returned to my formal training as a psychologist that works in the schools. So I stopped. I didn't get to do teaching after that.
Wow. So now you're
So
still
I did, although I did found another couple of friends, the teachers that were into astronomy. So one of the schools I worked at, we started an astronomy club.
That's
That
great.
was not formally part of my job. That was something we did, after school in the evenings, things like that.
Wow. That is so interesting. That is amazing. Because I swear no one is gonna have guessed that. Absolutely nobody would have guessed that. Because they would have thought the exact opposite. that like, yeah, that you were a teacher that was brought on and they kind of made you do the other stuff. That's amazing. That's so funny. Wow. Oh, yeah. I'm like, you're like, say something. Like I just keep talking. So I'm just so happy to talk to you.
What else is there to say? By the way, we probably can wrap this up. I mean, we have been going for more than an hour. Right?
Yeah. If I need more stuff later, would you mind if I contacted you for a second interview? If I have like more questions, possibly?
That would be fine.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You like, yeah, like you've like inspired me to like, do a whole documentary about it. And like, thank you so much. Everybody loves you. If anyone says hi to you on Facebook, that's why. But like, yeah, they all like, oh, tell John LV, I loved him. He was so wonderful. He was so nice. So yeah, like everybody loved you. You were a very happy memory for everybody there. So we all say thank you.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you so much, John. Hope it was awesome to talk to you.
All right, Carrie. Good luck with things.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. See if we can figure out how to turn this off.
Okay, I'm sorry.